The opinions expressed on Plastic Fantastic are intended for educational and informational purposes only and are not meant as a diagnosis, treatment, or substitute for professional medical advice. The mention of any product, treatment, or procedure on the show does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation and is purely for the information and education of the public.
Welcome to Plastic Fantastic, a weekly show dedicated to the latest in plastic surgery, aesthetics, beauty, and wellness. Now, here are your hosts, board-certified surgeons Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Did you catch that was that on there?
Yes, I think so.
Well, I was going to say, You're My Sweet Talking Woman. You know that song by ELO?
Yes, I do.
Hold on, sweet
I don't know.
talking woman.
Yeah, I can't sing it the way you do, though.
I can't really sing.
Dr. Robert Silich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson, the
and
Sweet
good
Talking
morrow.
Woman.
That's me.
Good evening.
Tis I.
Welcome to November, or as we say...
Movember.
Yeah, explain that to me. I don't know what that is.
Well, we had to look it up.
We had to look it up.
Like so many things that we've heard that we don't actually know what
I
they
should
mean.
know this.
You should, because you are a male. I guess
Since
it's
I am a
Movember
man.
for men.
I identify as a man.
Mo.
As a man. Movember.
Mo
You're
better-
supposed to grow
Mo
a
better- what was it?
moustache.
Yes.
Moustache.
Wasn't there a movie also, Mo Better Blues or something?
There was. I didn't see it.
Okay, anyway.
Movember Blues.
It has to do with men's health, which we are strong proponents of.
Yeah, testicular cancer,
Whether
prostate.
you're-
We're not proponents of testicular cancer or prostate cancer. Awareness.
Proponents of health issues related
Interesting
to
how
men.
we just finished Women's Breast Cancer Month.
That's right. That
Isn't
was October, and ladies first, as they say.
I never noticed.
So,
They bookended
you
it.
never noticed.
They bookended our...
Your men's month. Well, one of the things I know is that sometimes the guys will not shave or grow their hair, and have
sounds
a lot
like
more.
me on a regular day.
Well, we were talking about this some time ago. Do you realize we're almost up to our 90th episode together?
I keep asking you when we can stop.
Never.
We got some guests lined up, I
We're like
noticed.
Sisyphus. It just keeps, as soon as you think you're done, it starts all over again. The rock.
That's one of the
Greek
Dante
myths.
levels of hell.
No.
Which is the
he has
one
to
where
push the rock all the way up to the
Who's the
top
guy
of the
who
hill?
sits there and the liver gets eaten by all the birds nonstop?
Oh, yes, I know. That's disgusting.
That's a horrible one.
Yeah,
and then there's another guy.
I think some of those myths are actually really disgusting.
They're all disgusting. How about the other guy? Is it Ugolino? There's a great statue of this at the Met. The guy who's forced to starve. And he's in a room with his grandsons, and he has to eventually,
eat the kids.
Yeah, cannibalize the kid. It's crazy.
Who comes up with this
I don't
stuff?
know. A lot of time, but they didn't have
Stephen
TV.
King.
They didn't have social media, so they must be sitting around thinking of some weird-ass torture.
Yeah, well, we just had Halloween, talk about ghoulish, crazy things.
Fantastic. Loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Lots of candy, lots of chocolate, and all the leftover candy, which traditionally goes to hospitals. And
Really? Traditionally, it goes into my belly, yeah. I'll tell you that.
Yes, but isn't there a lot of candy that you can't eat?
Yeah.
No?
I'm actually not a big candy person, but I buy tons of it for the office, as you know.
Yes, and it gets eaten, I have to say. Plus, it's really cute to see all the kids in costumes. And we are, I think, in a really lovely week up here in New York City. We're going to have some lovely, warm, sunny weather. It's going to feel more like maybe April or May than November, which is nice.
Not sure how I feel
And the
about
marathon is coming up also on Sunday, which I know you run every single year.
Yeah, you could have it. I leave.
You beat the
I'm actually
records.
leaving this year for the marathon. I'm not going to be in town. It's horrible.
You're leaving? Where are you going? You didn't tell me this. This is the thing. The reason we do podcasts is so that I can find out when Rob's going to be
I'm
around.
going to visit my mom, and I'm going to get out of Dodge because the marathon destroys my neighborhood. Living on the Upper West Side as I do, it is a mess.
It is. And we welcome all the tourists. Of course, I think it's really great for a lot of the stores and the bars that put on shows. I think, I have not run a marathon, nor do I plan on ever doing
The
it.
portable toilet business. It helps.
Okay. That's not the direction I was going in.
I did a half marathon once. That's as far as I got.
Is it the same sort of route? I mean, obviously not as long, but half.
The half, I did the Staten Island half. So each borough does one, I guess, leading up to it.
Oh, I see. Got
and
it.
I don't know why I did it. The marathon is 26.2 miles, and the halves are all like 13 miles, I guess.
Well, people who've run the one in New York City say that there's a lot of really wonderful atmosphere and the little parties along the way, and the music and enthusiasm, except it's very early on. And I think, by the time you get up First Avenue, up into the Bronx, then
nobody pays attention.
The crowd peters out. And the worst part is, understandably, if it's raining, because then, the crowds are significantly less numerous.
A lot of runners I know tell me that the worst thing that could happen on Marathon Sunday is that it's warm. That's a killer.
Yeah, hot and humid.
Yeah.
So hopefully
they kind of hope for the 50 degrees that we would like to get in November, but,
So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Every once in a while, there'll be somebody who breaks a record, women and men. So we'll see.
Breaks a hip.
Oh, my God. Don't talk to me about all the...
I had a friend who ran it and broke a hip.
Really?
And he's an EMS guy from New York Presbyterian. No, he just had pain, and he ran through it. When it was over, like 3 days, he's still in agony. He goes, I'm going to get an x-ray. He had a broken hip. The guy's running on a broken hip.
That's insane. Well, I'm not planning on doing that, but I do like to go cheer people on. And then I have friends, and of course now I have my kids' friends, and so they run as a little posse and stuff. I don't know when they started doing this. Maybe it's been like that forever, but in order to get a number for the marathon, you have to fundraise. It's got to be for a cause.
That's one way.
And so you qualify by being fast enough, or you can participate as a team. And so a lot of the kids, certainly the younger ones who haven't run marathons before, they'll join as a group, and then they'll support a cause. And so that's really nice, I think, for the cause that they're supporting, but also because it brings them together, and then they do something as a team. And we're all about teamwork.
And you get a T-shirt.
Or a flag.
By the way, speaking of Greek mythology, the marathon, it's related to the marathon. I never really knew. Apparently there's a story where there was
the origin?
Yeah, the guy ran 26.2 miles and died at the end of the run.
Well, yeah, because he had to relay the fact that
somebody was coming, right? That the British were coming.
The Russians are coming. No.
The Peloponnesians were coming?
Yeah.
I thought it was the British.
No.
All right.
Well, it's in Greece. So
I guess they didn't have British back then.
I thought that was... They had the Romans and the Vikings and the Normans and
you are listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson
and Dr. Robert Sillage. We're going to bring it back now to Movember.
Back.
Let's tell listeners if they want to send us an email, how they can contact us. And I have to apologize ahead of time because we are not very good about checking our emails on a regular basis, especially since we've been very busy here in the office with clinical work. So if you send us an email and you don't hear back, do not despair. We will get to you.
We'll get there. plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com.
Send us your comments, inquiries, concerns,
complaints,
food recommendations, drink recommendations. I didn't think we got to that last week.
We're doing that now. Like maybe right now.
Okay, well, before we get there...
All right.
We have to talk about men's health, top 3 things that men should be concerned about or should think about or should be checked for.
Okay.
But also, we just finished our annual meeting, the ASPS meeting, which is the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which was up in Boston, and that's a yearly meeting. Now they do it also online, so you can do Zoom if you can't get there physically. Lots of people sign up for it, and it's also a good way to get those continuing medical education credits, which is a requirement for the maintenance of certification, which is every year we have to do something. Pay. I know we have to pay every year. And then maintain certain criteria and satisfy
It's pretty rigorous if you think about
requirements.
It's not difficult. It's very conscientious based. I mean, they really make sure that nobody slips through the cracks in terms of being board certified. Not just the first time. I mean, over and over and over every year, as you say.
I think we're going to talk about this more in future shows. We always mention board certification and what does it mean to be board certified and which board, most importantly, which board are you certified by? Because if it's not the American Board of Plastic Surgery, you really can't be calling yourself a plastic surgeon.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So that was this past weekend, and this is when a lot of new techniques are presented also, hot topics. Also, I think it's important to keep in mind that some of the new techniques, or quote-unquote new, have been tried before and abandoned for various reasons. So this is where surgical mastery of prior attempts at certain types of operations comes in handy, and also experience with longevity results and deciding what actually works and what doesn't. So just be a little wary of the hot new thing when there's no follow-up, like everything, right? You want your results to not just be great for the patient, but you want them to last for a long time.
And supposedly the complication rates are the highest, like in the 6 months.
Now.
Right after the meeting. I guess people kind of try stuff they haven't done before, which is kind of crazy.
The young cowboys, as they like to
and cowgirls
be referred to. So
come on.
All right, so back to Movember, because we have a few minutes, then we're going to take a break, and then the remainder of the show we can just do food.
You can do it in Halloween.
And Halloween.
Leftover Halloween.
Leftover pumpkins. I mean, this is where you see pumpkins galore, right?
Kabocha, as they say in Japan.
Is that what pumpkin is
That's
called?
That's what a pumpkin is. And I think
Japan?
it's a hobak in Korea.
Oh, good. Well,
Isn't that
thank
nice?
you.
You're welcome.
Learn a new thing every
See that?
day.
All right, so men's health. So what are the top 3 things?
You mentioned testicular cancer. I think
That's important because young guys.
Young guys, exactly. So people generally think that you're totally fine until you're older, and that's when things start to go off the rails. But testicular cancer is something that younger men, even in their teenage years, so that usually presents with pain and swelling swelling.
Self-exam. Sometimes not pain. Sometimes just a mass.
Yeah, a mass.
Self-exam is important, and your doctor also should be checking you out for that as well.
I think the most famous one was probably Lance Armstrong, right? When he had testicular cancer. I think that sometimes you have like a big star or a big name before he became famous for other things.
Yes.
But it's by the way, it is curable. You do need surgery.
Wildly curable.
Early, like with so many other things, early intervention is extremely important. So very important to get that checked. What else is big with men?
Well, prostate cancer, which is not a self-exam. Although I suppose it could be. Prostate cancer is something that, and just prostate disease in general, like it doesn't always have to be cancer. There is something called BPH, which is called benign prostatic hypertrophy, which just means that the prostate itself gets larger as men get older. It happens to universally every guy.
And they also say that even prostate cancer, if you live to be long enough, there will be some early changes in the prostate that are precursors to prostate cancer in pretty much the vast majority of men. So there's definitely a possibility that that's going to develop. And again, that's also curable and treatable depending on how early it's picked up. The other thing that I think is really interesting across the board in medicine and in surgery is the fact that they're developing all these minimally invasive approaches to treatment. So, robotic surgery, laparoscopic interventions, trying to minimize the amount of disruption of the nerve endings and other functions while they're trying to cure the cancer. So those are also extremely important to keep in mind.
So another exam that your doctor will do should be a prostate exam. It doesn't have to be for young men, but I think they start doing it when you're about 40.
Which is a rectal exam, digital exam, right? Which is why you were saying this is not something you do on yourself.
Listen, it could be, but probably for a more accurate, objective exam, it should be done by a second party,
right?
I would think.
A certified
Not a third party, but a second party. Fun fact about prostate cancer, if there's anything funny about it, one of the lowest rates of it are in jockeys and rodeo guys because of the continual supposed prostatic massage. Yes. So do with that what you will.
How about bicyclists? I mean,
yeah, I think so too.
Sort of concept,
but
right?
I think it's a lot of the bouncing
pounding,
around.
Right?
Did you say pounding? Okay, we're going to take a break right now. We've moved Movember into like some kind of, I don't even know. Let's just go. Are we ready to go to, don't even say slippery. Are we going to break right now? Is it time?
Not yet. We have to do the third.
Oh, come on.
Important.
I can't even think of the third one now because I'm loving this. That's not a medical problem.
Of course it is. Androgen pattern.
Yeah, to me, it's the number one medical problem.
Yes,
I didn't put these in order.
We should have started with
hair.
that.
I would say it's probably skin cancer.
Also, there are new medications. There was a new medication. I forget what it's called because we don't really do that. But
I'm still thinking about pounding, by the way. I'm not following you, and I bet the listener is kind of like, what is she trying to crawl herself out of this?
I was going to say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Oh, nicely done, Olivia.
Which is why
you know what? It's good that we don't have a lot of guests because we'd be like laughed out of the media.
No, I think this is how people remember things. If you make it entertaining, you deliver the message much more effectively.
You deliver the pounding. Nice.
So you can't escape the messaging. Guess what? We're up to our first break.
Isn't that great?
It's
all right, we'll do number 3 when we come back.
No, we did hair loss.
What?
I think it's
You
good.
really think that's hair loss? That's like a male problem? Come on, I was just kidding. I would think it's skin cancer because I think guys don't check.
Well, yes, and also melanoma primarily. A significant increase in the number of patients or people who were diagnosed with skin cancer, and especially melanoma, because of this predisposition to go out without using sunscreen. I mean, I guess guys just don't like to use sunscreen. They don't like the feel. They don't like to put creams on their faces, on their bodies. They couldn't be bothered. Or they go for the easy way out, which is the spray, which kind of misses. Have you seen like what the body looks like, the skin after people spray themselves?
Women are probably just better at taking care of their skin at an earlier age because they also know the deleterious effects cosmetically of a lot of sun damage. So that could be the reason why it's higher.
A lot of times if guys are going to go out to the beach or whatever, they're very active and so they forget to reapply, which is also also very important if you're going to go for a swim, dip, whatever, the sunscreen was going to wash off, and you need to be very diligent about applying it. You're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
This is Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Today, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and more than 11 million family members and friends serve as their caregivers. While researchers are working tirelessly to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia, the number of people living with Alzheimer's is expected to more than double by 2050. The toll of the disease is monumental, and its devastation affects family, friends, and especially caregivers. No one should face Alzheimer's and dementia by themselves. If you or someone you know is struggling to provide care to a loved one, please share this message. You are not alone. Free help and resources are available 24/7. To talk with an expert and obtain disease-related information, care and support services, call 800-272-3900 or visit the Alzheimer's Association website at alz.org. You are not alone.
Plastic Fantastic.
Welcome back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
Pound for pound, the best show on plastic surgery on the podcast landscape.
Movember, November.
Anyway, we're talking about men's health, or we did talk about men's health. I guess we can
We're
go
done
back
now.
to
Now
it
we're going to
little
talk
bit.
about men's food and wine and drinks. Whiskey?
Should we relate any of the men's stuff to plastic surgery?
Nah.
We don't care. It's about, how much would you say? It's
shall
about,
we say? They're very specific things that we do
10-15% of our practice, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe a little
for
higher.
you a little bit higher than for me. But I think overall, there are a lot more men who come in even for smaller procedures like Botox. Not so much fillers, maybe fat injections as a corollary to facial rejuvenation. The eyes, we talk about this all the time. Men who want to have their upper lids done. And
Be careful.
Be careful. Be very, very careful.
Be very careful.
Because you can really change the shape and the appearance. It's much more different. It's more feminine. It's also very difficult to correct. And we talk about this all the time. First, do no harm, but also if you're going to do an operation or a procedure that's overdone, it's difficult to reverse it. And sometimes it's impossible to really go back to the previous state. So I think that's one of the reasons that people like fillers that you can dissolve, because you can get rid of it. And even though we've talked about the fact that even in those instances, there are definitely patients where the filler does not get broken down for whatever reason, and you'll still have a little bit of filler left over. But there are so many other things surgically that if you over pull, if you over tighten, if you over resect, to use the medical term, especially in things like the eyes or the eyelids, those are much more difficult to reverse. So something to keep in mind. So what else do you guys, necks? I know necks are extremely popular as far as rejuvenation.
Necks are a big one with guys. Most men will say, don't touch my face, but just get rid of this thing here in the neck.
Yeah, the turkey
which
one.
For a lot of us has allowed us to develop a operation where it's really hidden, and then we apply it to some women as well. But mainly men are like that. There's a big stigma, I think, still about men in plastic surgery, particularly
they don't
in New
really
York.
want to share with everyone. So
Right.
the results have to look very natural so that people don't immediately notice and start asking questions. A lot of it also has to do with the return to work and the fact that they're older men who are continuing to work and they want to keep up with the younger guys who are coming in and feel competitive. Plus they feel good, right? I mean, be healthy and active, and they just want to be able to continue looking as good as they feel. And then for body work, gynecomastia, I think, is the one area which is specific to men. You did a pretty big case the other day, younger guy, right?
Yeah,
Who
and that's
lost
kind
a
of
lot
another subcategory, the guys that lose a tremendous amount of weight, either from bariatric surgery or just from dieting. And the whole new intermittent fasting fad is a very big thing with men. I don't know if you've ever seen that on Instagram, but you're like bombarded with, maybe it's because I'm a guy, I don't know. And it seems like there's so many ads for intermittent fasting, particularly like catering towards men.
So is that because you clicked on something and then you've been tagged?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I told you this the other day. I think sometimes they even look at the time, even if you don't like post, I think they actually calculate the time.
Oh, how much time you spend on it?
Yeah, that post is not being moved.
Yeah, I gotta
They'll
tell
start
you, they
getting you.
track everything.
That Zuckerberg, man.
Yeah. Well, it's all about capitalizing on ads, right?
Yeah, right now I guess it's free still.
Instagram, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. They track you.
No such thing as free.
I think the worst one is TikTok, though, which really doesn't just track you, but it feeds certain stories, and body image is huge on that. And I think it actually targets both women and men. I mean, eating disorders with anorexia and bulimia definitely are more prevalent in women. I don't think people realize just how many guys and younger, adolescents are actually also affected by it. Gynecomastia, which is the development of a women type breast tissue appearance on a man. Definitely very common in the adolescent stages. It's sometimes associated with certain drugs or testicular dysfunction. We were talking about testicular health earlier. And in a lot of those boys, it will resolve over the course of a couple of years, but in many of them, it does not. And as we all know, teenage years are difficult for girls and boys. And so guys tend to...
And their parents.
And their parents. Just you wait when your nieces get into that age.
And I was going to say, and it's bimodal. It comes back too. I mean, there's kind of two big peaks of gynecomastia, as you mentioned, in adolescent boys, and then it comes again with older men. And a lot of it is hormonal, obviously, related to the older men.
So as long as there's no medical reason or a drug that's causing it, and it's truly just idiopathic, which means that there's no actual reason for it, surgery to correct that will make the patient feel great because it removes all that extra breast tissue and the fat component of the breast tissue as well. Most of the time it can be done with liposuction, and in those patients who still have some residual breast tissue underneath the nipple, you can make a very small, inconspicuous incision around the areola, which is the pigmented skin around the nipple, so that they don't feel embarrassed about going to the beach and taking their shirt off, and at the gym or wherever else guys take their shirts off and are
during the podcast. You're always telling me to keep my shirt on. There is an incident of male breast cancer too. We should say that that's not unheard of. It's rare, but it does occur, and that's why in that surgery that you mentioned, we always send all the specimens.
Yeah, anything that's removed surgically. Not with the liposuction so much, but
the surgical excision, yeah.
So that is very specific. And then body contouring with liposuction in general, the love handles, that sort of typical area in guys where they can have a little bit of fat deposition. And you can have very skinny, thin, slender, athletic men who just carry a little bit of extra fat in that area, and they just can't get rid of it. And that's really the concept behind liposuction, is that it's not a method of weight loss. It's really a body contouring procedure. And it works really well because once the fat is removed, those cells are gone forever. So your body doesn't make new fat cells.
You're listening to Plastic Fantastic
with Dr. Robert Silic
and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. You could email us at plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. We're talking a little bit about Movember, but we're trying to get into Movember cocktails.
Yes.
Movember menu, Movember recipes.
We're going to get there very quickly. I was going to say we are here to demystify, debunk, and educate. And one of the things that we're asked about quite often is, if you have liposuction, is the fat going to move to a different part of your body?
Oh, yeah. They always ask us that.
Good opportunity to debunk that myth.
Why don't you take that one, Dr. Hutchinson?
I'll take it. So if you have liposuction, the fat does not move around in your body. It doesn't get on a little rowboat and sail around anywhere. It stays put. Those fat cells that are left behind do have the ability to increase in volume. So they're kind of like little balloons that if you increase your food intake and your caloric intake and you stop exercising, then you can have an increase in the volume of the residual fat cells. But those were always there. And so there's a genetic component to that. You're born with a certain number of fat cells. As you lose weight and become more fit, then they will collapse in size, and the opposite is true as well. But their fat does not move to a different part of your body.
There is a slight asterisk to that, which is anecdotally, and you see this a lot in your practice, a lot of times when we do liposuction, anecdotally, women say, my breasts are bigger afterwards. And everybody was like, oh, no, it's an optical illusion. But, well, actually, they looked at this in the Netherlands. Remember that study a couple of years back? Mm-hmm. And they actually found that there is sometimes up to a cup increase in native breast tissue or native breast size, probably more related to fat rather than actual breast tissue. And they think it may be just from the stimulation of fat stem cells in the breast area to increase. So that's exactly the way you put it. It's not circulating fat is getting there and growing, but there is some kind of mechanism that can stimulate annihilate some breast growth in women that have had significant body liposuction. I think if you have something pretty limited, you don't see that. They're kind of trying to debunk that as a myth and an anecdote, but they're starting to look at that a little bit.
And then the other thing is with large volume liposuction, which is defined as anything over 5 liters, they started looking at metabolic changes that happen because those patients can actually be helped, the ones who are pre-diabetic and who are massively overweight. Now, that's not an aesthetic procedure. Those types of procedures are fraught with potential complications because of fluid shifts and metabolites and electrolytes, so that you really have to do it in a controlled setting in the hospital, etc. But they have looked at some of the hormonal changes, again, with very large volumes of fat cells that are removed at the time of surgery, where it could have a positive effect on it. So.
And they tend to push more patients towards the bariatric side of those things. That's something that somebody wants to do. And you're right, the metabolic changes are fascinating. And they've reversed type 2 diabetes in a lot of these patients. Their lipid profile improves. Their hypertension medications sometimes don't have to be taken anymore. It's really amazing.
And they also looked at paniculectomy, which is also for morbidly obese patients.
Why don't you tell the listener what a paniculectomy is?
Well, I'd love to.
Because it sounds a bit provocative, but it's not at all.
There's no pounding involved.
There's no... Oh, jeez. So a panis is a big overhang.
Yeah, an apron, they like to call it.
There you go.
So it basically is skin and fatty tissue that comes from below the belly button and hangs over the pubic area. And so when you do a paniculectomy, you're removing that skin and fat that is basically folded on itself. So it does involve a relatively large incision, sort of like a tummy tuck in the sense that it's hip to hip in those patients who require that for a tummy tuck procedure. Am I boring you, Dr. Silich?
No. No, I was thinking of hip to hip, that line. I think it's from B-52's Rome.
Oh, yes.
Isn't it?
Too, yeah. But that's not where we got it from.
Doesn't she say taking
hip
something like hip to hip, around the world we go, something?
Yeah. But I always thought it was like,
why didn't she say
they
that?
stand stands like side by side kind of thing.
So cool.
Anyway.
Trying to get you into rock and roll. Go ahead,
I am.
Keep going.
We're going to get there in one second. But they also looked at the fact that even with paniculectomy alone, before the patient has had a chance to lose weight from gastric bypass and those types of things, that there is a change as well in those patients, metabolically speaking. So those are different types of procedures that we do, sort of veered off the male cosmetic surgery platform. But as always, we say, make sure you choose a board-certified plastic surgeon who has experience in what they're doing and can advise you on all the different possibilities and alternatives. And then hopefully you'll find a good one. Here in New York City, we certainly have quite the plethora of
you could find a bad one too, but I don't think that would serve you well. We've got those too.
Try to steer clear of
Sadly.
those. You're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Shall we tell them where they can find us
if
they want to listen to other...
Spotify.
iHeart.
Spreaker.
YouTube.
Yep. There's probably more, but...
we have to figure it out. We don't have time to research.
I don't think we're on TikTok yet.
But we were found in the podcast world.
Yeah.
So clearly
which
somebody's
we're very
listening.
proud of. Somebody's listening other than those
that
10
one.
people I email it to. The listener knows.
We're going to take a quick break.
Maybe the listener did it.
No, too many different queries, shall we say, from different far-reaching queries from all corners of the globe.
Yep.
We're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back.
This is Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
The study in the American Heart Association's journal Stroke shows that people who work more than 10 hours a day for at least 50 days per year have a 29% greater risk of stroke. And if they do it for more than 10 years, their risk of stroke rises to 45% greater, according to study author Dr. Alexis Descatha.
The association between 10 years of long working hours and stroke seemed even stronger for people under the age of 50. This was unexpected. We need further research to explore this finding.
Descatha notes that healthcare providers are among the most guilty of working long hours. He says he'll advise patients to work more efficiently and plans on following his own advice.
For more or to get involved, call 1-888-4STROKE or visit strokeassociation.org. Follow the American Heart Association on Facebook and Twitter, 888-4STROKE or strokeassociation.org.
The future depends on teachers. Every day, teachers are shaping our tomorrows, starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who will make preventing pandemics their life's work, sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who will help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who'll be the first in their family to graduate college. It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and to enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Educating, demystifying, and debunking the myths of plastic surgery. You're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Welcome back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
It's Movember, November.
It sure is.
It's time to move into food, wine, great. Cocktails. Come on, we've covered so many topics.
Women, wine, and song. I know that's so inappropriate to say that now, but you know, he used to always say that, Charles Krauthammer, when he was on Fox News. He always used to say, I'd spend my last money
in relation to what?
I women, wine, and song.
Are those the three vices in the world?
I guess traditionally that would be. Nowadays, it's.
I don't know about song.
That
That's
is
not really
so
a vice.
Loaded with.
Although, where is it that you can't listen to music? Is it the Seventh-day Adventist? There's some religious.
Oh, I was going to just say Singapore. Because you can't do anything in Singapore.
Yes, well, let's not get into totalitarian states.
Next
week is election day. I don't want to steal our
nice
thunder
segue. That's very good.
Well, we just had Brazil elections. We've gone back to
and he was
Lula.
President before. Now he's president again.
Yeah, apparently it's the first time that the sitting president was not reelected, which I thought that was interesting.
In Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah. So we'll see which way that goes. But lots of decision-making opportunities in the U.S. and abroad. So let's talk about food. What is a stereotype in terms of where guys like to go hang out for food and wine and women?
I still think it's the big steakhouse in New York. It's still although a lot of the big classic ones are gone, but I
think
there
a
that's
lot of
still.
Them are gone?
Yeah, I think
Sparks is Sparks still there?
Sparks is still there, but I think the Palm is whittled down to maybe one.
But we have new ones that Keen's is around.
We do. Hardly new, but yeah.
Yeah.
Keen's and you go to that great one, which I can't get into.
Yeah.
That great
Fort
restaurant
Charles.
downtown. Wow.
No plugs. We have nothing but good things about so many different restaurants in New York.
I've been making fires lately.
To char your meat on?
No. But that's actually a good idea. Got a working fireplace and I like to fire it up.
Do you ever use it to cook?
No, but
be like
I saw
the witches with the cauldrons you can set up.
Nice. No, but I'll tell you what I did see is we talked about Alice Waters before, the famous chef.
I'm sure we have.
We probably have. I watched this interview with her.
If it wasn't today, then I don't really recall.
She was sitting in her fabulous Northern California kitchen. It had a fireplace in it, and she makes her eggs just in a ladle.
Cooked?
Well, no, she cracks the egg in the ladle and then just holds the ladle over an open flame like a fireplace.
Hopefully it's a well-insulated ladle.
I would think so. I think she had gloves on, and then that's it. Bob's your uncle. So no, I haven't. If you cook a lot at home, at least in New York in an apartment, there's a lot of smoke and stuff, at least the way I do it. And it's not a bad idea to have it over by the fire. Didn't think of that.
As you know, I like to go to the farmer's market, and there's a fish guy there, and it's very busy. Lots of people always buy fish. I am thinking, since I hate to cook fish in the house because it just reeks, regardless of how fresh it is. Somehow can't get rid of it. With the vent and the hood and the open windows, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But you can do ceviche, which is,
I love it.
I think really good because then it's more like, sushi, obviously. It's just sashimi. It's fresh. And I do like it with, what's the vinaigrette that you put in it? You use a special kind of sauce over it.
Well, I'll tell you how I do it. A trick.
Lime?
I'm not lime. I'm not a huge fan of anything in the onion family, whether it's shallots or onions or
chives,
whatever. Yeah. But anyway, so I like to make it with shallots. Leeks, right. I like to make it with shallots, but I cut them as fine as I can. I put them in a baggie with lemon. And you massage it and you leave it in the fridge for a little bit. And apparently no, I don't, because it would probably turn it into like mush. But that takes the bite out of the shallot or the scallion or even the onion if you're doing it. And then I use that for the ceviche. Ceviche, you do not have to cook the fish, obviously. That's the whole point of it. It gets cooked by the acidity of either the lime or I guess it's what? Lemon. Acetic acid is vinegar, right?
Yep. I think it also brings out the flavor in the fish too, because some fish can be kind of bland.
And I use cilantro, which when I was a kid I hated, and now I'm kind of into it.
There are those people who think that cilantro tastes like soap.
Soap, yeah. So. It has a specific taste, but once you get it and you like it, there's like nothing that replicates that taste, and that's kind of interesting. I've used Bronzino
It's kind of like
fillets.
parsley, right? It's from the same.
Well, that's the thing. It looks, and we've all made that mistake out there where you buy a bunch of cilantro and you think it's parsley.
Yeah.
I think the leaves are
different.
cut a little differently.
It's all about the pattern and the
a
aesthetic.
white fish. I've used little baby scallops, the little bay scallops I've used. I've used shrimp, but I have to be honest, I cook the shrimp first.
Oh, so it's not really ceviche. It's like a shrimp
The
salad.
shrimp part of it isn't, just because I think it's hard to break into that tough flesh of shrimp.
And then do they stay
to
gray?
get in there. Yeah, no. I think
Not
so. That
if you
pink
cook
is,
them,
I think, a reaction to
the heat.
That's a very good question.
Our listeners.
Wow. All right, we need to find that out.
We're trying to stump you.
No, so what I'll do is I'll have all the other fish goes in raw, but with the shrimp, I usually have something boiled and I'll just throw it in there quickly and then in an ice bath and then I'll chuck it back in. Celery,
the ubiquitous
salt and
ice
pepper.
bath. I got all these interesting eggplants, actually. I'm going to go out on a limb and try to do, they had like Japanese eggplant.
The Japanese ones are
They
great.
had the little purpley long ones. They had the little white ones. And then they had baby, regular Italian, I guess, eggplant.
Yeah, I love the Japanese ones. They leave the skin on, usually. They do it with miso paste, which you could buy in the supermarket.
Is that soy base? What's miso?
It looks a little bit like peanut butter, but a little bit lighter, and you basically smear it on there with some olive oil and you just put it in the oven. Eggplants are like sponges, though. You ever notice that? Like, it will soak up everything. Yeah. They say you're supposed to sweat them with like sea salt first, but it takes a lot of time.
And then cut them really thin. I don't like it when it's thick because then the skin, which is really tough. And
if you have a lot of it left over and you're kind of sick of just roasting them, you could make
salad.
What's the Mideast dip that's made from eggplant?
Yeah, baba ganoush.
Yes, that's eggplant. And then the other thing is you could make ratatouille, which I know you could pronounce.
Which I still haven't seen. I have to watch. I think
kidding
that's
me.
going to be the movie selection for this weekend.
Children of all ages. Men, it is a great movie. Seriously.
Yes, every time you say Ratatouille, I'm like, oh yes, there's that movie I have to watch.
I've seen it. I watched it by myself as an adult. Then I showed my little nieces. It's terrific. You'll love it.
There are new movies. Funny. By the way, let's talk about things that are happening in the city now that it's Movember. Not necessarily male related, but the Foreign Film Center by Lincoln Center, there's a foreign film theater that shows all of these interesting movies that have won awards, either at the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, as they like to call it, which I think is cute, or the Sundance Festival, the Cannes, Palme d'Or, all that stuff. They're movies I've never heard of, and they sound really cool. I mean, there was Japanese, a Korean one.
I had a girlfriend once that said that it's a great movie. It won the Pompadour.
Pompadour.
The Pompadour
Like
Award.
Madame Pompadour. Like that one.
Didn't really.
You can't make fun of
Don't
people who
say. The Pompadour. Well, you make fun of me all the time with my pronunciation.
I do not.
What else? We've got The Crown. Let's go to streaming services. That's coming back,
Yes.
I believe, in a week.
Have you seen? I still haven't seen the one with Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, wow. That was really great. She played Princess Margaret. You missed that?
Yeah.
I think there's 2 seasons of that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you better get on that. That's the last one.
I better do that before we move on to the next one. So how many episodes are in each season?
What they do is they take the actors for 2 seasons, and then they change all the actors. So the first 2 seasons, there was a specific...
I watched both of those.
Right,
yeah.
so Claire Foy played Queen Elizabeth. Then 3rd and 4th season, somebody else does. And then the 4th and 5th... I'm sorry, the 5th and 6th is now...
That's what's coming out now?
That's what's coming out.
And it's with like Diana, right? It's the more
She was in it last
one.
year.
Anyway.
So you got to watch that.
When I start watching them, I want to be able to see the subsequent episodes. It's really hard just to watch one and then step away. So I should just like shut down the practice for a week.
You're in the catbird seat right now. You could see it all, yeah.
Catch up on everything.
Catch up on all of them. And I told you there's a great show on Hulu you should watch called The Patient with Steve Carell. That's fantastic.
I couldn't remember what it was. I almost texted you
I think
this
it's on
weekend
FX, but Hulu grabs everything. They watch it.
Isn't FX just regular cable? I have everything. Plus, all the kids like to watch all the various sporting events.
You could get it on there or you could stream it on Hulu.
We have everything. Oh, we have the World Series coming up. Not that that's a streaming thing.
I think it's going on and like, who cares? Right? The Dodgers or the Yankees aren't in it, so I'm like, whatever. Or the Red Sox.
The Dodgers? That's your other team?
No, I'm just saying like a big, I think it's like the Padres, yawn.
No, it's the
Astros.
Astros.
Losing everybody. No, it's the Astros and the Padres. Oh, no,
And
the
the
Padres
Phillies.
lost. That's right. The Phillies beat the Padres.
Yes.
See, that shows you how way into this I am. Once the Yankees lost, I was like,
you are not
whatever.
listening to a baseball podcast, by the way.
No, I do like baseball, but see, I'm not really following it.
Plastic Fantastic
All right, so it's
Show.
the Phillies and the
And
Astros.
the
The Astros are the cheaters, and the Phillies are like terrible, like,
They're the underdog. I think they were not supposed to.
Oh, the Astros?
No, the Phillies are the underdog.
Got to give it to them, man. Philadelphia's got some great sports teams right now, right?
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia is the center of a lot of things. I mean, the election next week, obviously, and
that's right, Dr. Oz and
lots of hotly contested
Dr. Fetterman.
Yes, races. So
did I say Dr. Fetterman?
You said doctor.
Yeah, he's
Dr.
the patient,
Oz.
actually.
Although in the debate, they kept referring to Mehmet Oz as Mr. Oz.
I think they do that, by the way, when you get down to Congress.
But Fetterman called him Dr. Oz.
If there would ever be a doctor that would become president,
I see.
I think they would call him Mr. Hutchinson.
Wouldn't that be interesting? A female. Well, I wasn't born here, so it wouldn't be me. But
that's
if one of my kids, or
by the
Dr.
way,
Silic.
Interesting example of that. Rishi Sunak, the new prime minister, was not born in the UK.
He was not. Oh.
You don't have to be.
Oh, so that's more of a...
That's a U.S.
thing. Interesting. I would have thought you had to be because they're so specific about what the requirements are. It tends to favor people who've been there for years and years. So family history and all that kind of stuff. So so we'll see what's going on the international stage. But let's come back to restaurants and food in the last couple of minutes before we have to sign off until another fascinating, interesting podcast next week. Have you gone to any interesting new places in the city, or is there one that you're trying to go to?
No.
For November.
But I have been desperately searching for the venue for our Christmas party, our holiday party.
But you're jumping way down. My goodness,
it's less
into
than
November.
8 weeks away. I want to just say.
Are we going to do the countdown to Christmas?
I'm doing it right now.
Wow.
Come on.
Okay.
Think about it.
No, I know.
It's less than 8 weeks away.
By the way, as soon as you're done with
putting
Halloween,
up your tree.
Yes. I've already seen the decorations for Christmas in the
why
windows.
I love the UK so much, because it's already Christmas season there now.
Because they don't have Thanksgiving either,
right.
so they don't have to do turkey or anything
right. It's
like
great.
that. So, and this gets to be super busy for us too. So all kidding aside, this is when a lot of people want to have work done, quote unquote. We're going away on vacation, but wink, wink, we're not.
And the city is just bombarded with traffic and tourists and business. And
a white Christmas, though. I mean, here I am now completely
I just want a cold
Christmas.
I don't even care if it's white.
Yeah, just no rain. That's the worst.
That is a killer, isn't it? The
and
rainy
like
Christmas.
Mud and slush and everything.
So bad.
But we're going to end on an upbeat
Bring
note.
it up. You going back to pounding again?
Going back.
How we started this thing?
Check yourself if you're a guy.
Before you wreck yourself, as they say. Somebody said that. Check, check, check.
We're going to look up all those things that we mentioned and refer to that we don't know what the original source is.
That's right.
And give them due respect. So thank you for listening to Plastic Fantastic. That's it, baby. Unless you want to... I got a lot more.
Oh, I know you do. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Hutchinson, for listening to the Plastic Fantastic.
And speaking on the Plastic Fantastic, and you as well, Dr. Silic, we're going to be back next week with more entertainment for your lonely Tuesdays and whatever other day we are dropped on, and more entertainment for you. If you'd like to email us one last time, plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com, and have a great first week of November.
You've been listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silic and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. Produced by Mike Scheck. This is Bill Eugene speaking. Got a question? Email plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. And be sure to listen right here every week for another episode of Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silic and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.